I'm Rob Kingsbury. I'm the editor of T4B Magazine. I'm here today with Peter Welch, the IFA Key Account Director for Touchstone Financial Analytics, and we're going to be talking about MyTouchstone, the financial data service provided for financial advisors. Peter, let's get down to brass tacks. Touchstone Financial Analytics is part of the Equifax Group, a well-known aggregator and data provider. But what's the service proposition to financial advisors?
Well, for over 20 years, Touchstone has been gathering sales data from now actually over 90 providers. And it's been principally used by those providers as their main source of management information for their sales to IFAs. What we've done with MyTouchstone is presented that very same data, but in a way in which IFA firms can use it as a business planning or marketing tool. And what it does is it presents the firm's sales performance versus the peers in their local town.
Let's look at some of those services in more detail. Now, one that immediately catches the eye is the IFA league tables. What exactly does that provide for advisors?
That provides a very detailed breakdown of the sales of an IFA firm by all the various product sectors, and then compares it versus the peer group in a particular location and indeed nationally. So we've had a few firms that have come back and said to us, we really like this because what it does is it allows us to say in their marketing or communications to their customers, we're the #1 provider of retirement planning in Birmingham, for example.
Investor Hotspots is another one of your services. Now, is this, as it sounds, sort of a heat map of investors and what they're investing in the local area?
That's almost right, actually. Because we hold the sales data on every single piece of business that gets written through IFAs in the UK, we're able to present where those customers are on a map, on a Google map, which then shows hotspots of investor activity. So rather than advisors being able to guess where consumers are for their marketing purposes, we can actually present a real map of where those customers really do exist.
Now, one of the services that's likely to be of particular interest to advisors at the moment is the Advisor Charging Guide. Can you tell me a little bit about how this works in practice?
Yes, that's a really topical one, and indeed it's going to be even more topical as we move into 2013. Advisors using our service give us details on the fees that they charge, both on an hourly rate and by funds under management. And then we aggregate that data and present it back to those that have given it to us, because we have a data sharing model. And it gives advisors a very clear view on where they stand in terms of fees versus their local peers in their town. And indeed, we have a league table of fees throughout the UK. A number of advisors have said they found this really useful because it's given them the ability to benchmark their proposition against their competition, and they've in turn used our data in their communications with their clients and when they've set their fees that they charge.
Is there data that MyTouchstone provides that as an advisor will give me insight into market trends and investor behaviour?
Yes, we have quite a detailed report that advisors can look at, which will show over several quarters what their business mix is themselves, and indeed what the business mix is of all the advisors in their area. So it gives a very detailed analysis of the trends and where business is particularly moving, which is useful when you're deciding on where you want to focus your marketing campaign or what sort of advice areas you want to focus in for your client bank.
The pros and cons of outsourcing is a major topic for advisors at the moment. Is there any help MyTouchstone can give advisors when looking to outsource elements of their business?
This is an area where we've got a depth of information for advisors. We hold information and data on platforms, networks, compliance services, back offices, and indeed the types of investment proposition that are being used by advisors currently. So it gives an awful lot of depth for advisors to do their research when they're looking at engaging with a third party, or indeed doing things like due diligence for platforms, and what are people doing in their local area. So if you'd like to join a network where you know there's a strong local community, we'll be able to tell you which is the strongest network in your area, or indeed the strongest compliance service provider.
That sounds as though it's going to be a very important service for providers to look at.
Precisely, and increasingly so again as we go into RDR, because advisors need to document and prove to the regulator they've done their due diligence, and indeed business efficiency is going to become absolutely more critical as margins fall, as advisors move to advisor charging. So in order to become more efficient, a lot of advisors' work will now increasingly be outsourced or engage with third parties to provide services which traditionally advisors have done for themselves.
How individual is the data that MyTouchstone can provide for advisor firms?
The data we have is very accurate down to firm level. So an advisor firm can rest assured that the data we're presenting is accurate because it is based on their actual sales reported back to us by life companies, fund managers and platforms. In terms of the view of the data, we offer principals the ability to be able to have a master view of their firm, and then they can tailor the view that their advisors have to suit their own business purposes.
One of the most interesting elements of the MyTouchstone service is that it's free to advisors. Now, the obvious question is, where's the catch?
I get asked this question all the time by advisors, and I'm pleased to say there isn't a catch. Our business model is one of data sharing. So we take advisor data into the site, and our clients have an interest in some of the questions that the advisors answer. And that's what pays for the data that we provide them. So as long as that, they're comfortable with us sharing some of the information they've shared with our provider customers, then there's no catch.
So, if advisors want to learn more about MyTouchstone, how do they get in touch?
Well, that's really very easy. All they have to do is log in at www.mytouchstone.co.uk, and there's a very simple registration process where they can log on and then start to play with the data and get a feel for what it can actually do for their business.
Peter, thanks very much for coming in and talking to us today.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.